Hey gang, and welcome to this, well, not quick video I guess, explaining your next major essay, the social sciences essay. As I mentioned in the at a glance video, this tends to be the essay that students have the most to say and feel the most connected to. Even though it's an academic research essay, there's plenty of room for your voice and ideas here. So let's get started. If you haven't done so already, it would be good to pull up the SS essay guidelines and have them up while I go through them. I'll put the highlights up on the slides here, but having the entire guidelines out would be good. You can just pause me real quick, don't worry, I won't be offended, and grab that link. This essay is dealing with the social sciences, where our first paper in the humanities dealt with the individual interpretations and analysis. Your second essay worked with the natural world apart from people. This essay is dealing with people on a larger scale, considering the institutions such as schools, religion, and government that govern our thinking and behavior. This essay is a problem solution essay, so in a nutshell, you'll be finding a social problem and then providing a few solutions to fix the problem. This paper will be about 5 to 6 paragraphs long and between 600 to 800 words long. The purpose of this essay is to explore a current social problem and propose possible solutions to that problem by summarizing and quoting academic research. Your goal will be to clearly define the problem, including establishing the stakes of the issue, and then propose your own solution based on the research. To start this essay, you'll need to come up with a topic, and that's where the Pew Research Center comes in. As you can see over here, if you click on that link from the guideline page, it will take you to a larger collection of topics. From here, you'll need to click on a trend, which will take you to various articles that discuss specific aspects of the topic. And it's those specific aspects that you'll be working with. It's important to note that these topics are only starting points. They may not even be specific problems. It will be your task to identify the problem within that topic. So I'd encourage you to pause me here for a sec and poke through those topics and see what jumps out at you. It'll give you some context for the rest of the essay. Now don't get too upset, but there are some topics that are just off limits. These choices are as much for your protection as they are for mine. Historically, papers on these topics are very, very bad because they encourage clickbait research and Facebook post level responses from students. These topics are low-hanging fruit that students grab because they think they're easy, but that always comes back to bite them and me. Moreover, some of these I have very strong personal feelings about, and it's difficult for me to separate that from objectively grading them. So it's really for your protection. Alright, so here are the off-limit topics. Abortion. Guys, this topic is super depressing. There was this one semester that out of like 25 students, 14 of them did papers on abortion, and it just broke something inside of me. So that one's done. Legalize drugs. I don't care what drug it is. I promise you, you will not give me a new argument that I have not heard a million times. So nope to that one. Trump, the person. If your problem or solution is to get rid of Trump, then no, however much I may agree with you. Those papers are just historically bad and unrealistic. If you want to focus on a specific policy of his administration, fine, but not him specifically. Next is racism as a whole. You're just not going to solve racism in 5 to 6 paragraph paper. It's just not going to happen. So try to find something a bit more specific. Something like racism in education or in the workplace, but a holistic solution to racism is not going to produce a good essay. Next is police brutality. This has been kind of a hot button topic for a while and tends to produce just bland research papers. Along with that would be gun control as well, so let's just snip that low-hanging fruit and reach for something a bit more unique. And finally, COVID-19 or coronavirus. Unfortunately, this topic is just too recent, and there isn't enough concrete research out there to make me comfortable enough to allow the topic. Now, there are certainly things that are results of the pandemic that you are welcome to tackle, such as taking online college all of a sudden, but the virus itself is under the too soon umbrella and is off limits. Now, if you feel super strongly about any of these topics, you're welcome to email me and discuss it, but you'll need to have a darn good case and very specific angle you're working with to get me to lift this embargo. Once you've got your topic, you'll need to start performing the research. You are required to have at least 3 sources for your paper. 1 introductory source, chosen from the Pew Research Center, and 2 academic sources, chosen from the library databases. Make a note that academic sources are defined as sources which cite and quote other sources. If your article doesn't have a works cited page or a references section, it probably isn't going to cut it. You'll want to look for sources that are examining the topic from various angles rather than multiple topics all saying the same thing. So look out for different and varying ideas out there. You'll be looking for sources through the library databases. As you can see above me, wow, that's how the Brady Bunch feels. The easiest way to get there is to go back to the My SPC page, the one with all the blue tiles, and click on the library apple icon. From there, click on the databases by subject, and then click Social Sciences toward the bottom, and you'll have a nice long list of options. Some really good databases include JSTOR, Springer eJournal Collection, and Opposing Viewpoints, which is a personal favorite. Those are all good for general content. More specific databases like Criminal Justice or Diversity Studies Collection can help with more finite topics. As you gather research, you'll want to take some notes and consider which sources will be the most effective for your argument, because you'll be using those notes for a larger assignment in this unit later. Remember, your ultimate goal for this essay is to propose solutions or improvements on current solutions to the problem you've identified. So you'll need sources both on the problem and potential solutions, or sources on solutions that we already have. We'll be working on research more next week, but that gives you the basic idea. Once you get some research under your belt, you can start thinking about organization. As I said, this paper is 5 to 6 paragraphs, depending on your structure, and it will also include an abstract. So the first point is the abstract, but it's the last thing you'll write, so we'll deal with that in a few weeks. In paragraph 1, you're introducing the topic, including basic information like when it started or became a modern concern, or who or what is affected by the problem, perhaps who or what is to blame for the problem, and finally your thesis statement. In this case, your thesis statement is your proposal for potential solutions to the problems that you've identified. Depending on how you organize your paper, this may either be a pronged thesis, which lists out the pieces of your argument, or a more central claim. But here's a good example of a pronged thesis statement, which tends to work the best for this paper. Many children suffer long-term consequences of bullying, but the problem can be remedied through educating the parents, encouraging a community atmosphere, and implementing a peer mediation program. So this thesis identifies the problem, bullying, and then quickly moves to the potential solutions, which are outlined in the paper. You can have either 2 or 3 solutions for your problem, but either way, you'll list out your solutions here in the thesis. Don't get too bogged down in specifics of either the problem or the solutions, because you'll use those in the following paragraphs. Your next paragraph is where you'll define the problem itself. Here you'll give some basic background information on the problem and explain why it is so dangerous and what the stakes of the problem are, what we stand to lose if we don't fix it, or what we stand to gain if we do. Try to be as specific as possible. If the problem affects everyone, then you're going to try and tackle everyone in a 6-paragraph paper, which just isn't going to happen. So zoom in with some specifics. You can think about age groups, demographics, gender, class, all kinds of ways to categorize people, but you'll want to be specific. This is a good place also for a quote from your Pew source, as it will likely have specific data you can use. And as you wrap up this paragraph, try to make a shift towards the potential solutions for your paragraph as a bit of a transition. Your next 2 or 3 paragraphs will be the solutions to the problem you've identified, with each paragraph having its own solution or step. You have a few options here for exactly how to solve your problem. You can have 2 to 3 significantly different solutions. You can have one solution with multiple parts or steps, or you can solve different aspects of the problem. Don't think you have to save the entire world. Small bites are fine. Regardless of your method, you need to address multiple aspects of each of your solutions in these paragraphs. First and foremost, your solution should be logical and viable. If your solution sounds too easy, then it probably is. If your solution is, we should just be nicer to each other, well, yeah, duh, that's obvious. Think about realistic solutions, not perfect world fixes. You also need to consider how one might implement your solution. Who would you need to convince? How would it get started, or who might it involve? Finally, and this is very important, you need to consider the opposition, what others may say to tear down your solution. No solution is perfect or foolproof, so address those weaknesses or difficulties. And ultimately, argue how the benefits of your solution outweigh the costs or difficulties. For each solution paragraph, you need to incorporate at least one direct quote from your academic sources, and I would suggest having a different source for each paragraph. So if you have 3 solution paragraphs, you will need an additional source. Finally, your conclusion is where you bring it all together and reinforce not only the problem you've identified, but that you've got some solutions. The biggest move you need to make here is to identify which of your solutions is the best. Now, that can mean which solution is the easiest to implement, which one has the largest effect, or the one that perhaps the most people would agree with. This is where you get to be persuasive. Finally, provide that call to action. Give your readers something to do. How can they get started, or what's the next step towards working on these solutions? You can get away with a little direct address here as well. And that's the paper. Again, you have a lot of agency in this one, especially in terms of identifying your own solutions to the problems, so feel empowered. But most importantly, choose a topic that you have some skin in or feel strongly about. Those are the ones that you'll find are the most rewarding topics to write on. Alright, here's some nitty-gritty stuff. I'm not going to go over every single blessed detail, I've been talking for long enough. So be sure you double check all of those requirements on the guidelines page on your own. For research requirements, you're required to have at least 3 sources for your paper. One source should be from Kew, and then you need 2 unique academic sources from the library databases. If you're doing 3 solution paragraphs, I would encourage having a 3rd academic source as well. This paper will be in APA format, so that means title page, abstract, all that jazz. So you'll start to lose points if your paper isn't properly formatted, so be sure you get that roped in. If you fail to meet the minimum length requirements, you'll get a 0. And missing a source will cost you 10 points per source, so be sure that you have them all. Finally, this paper will be due Friday, April 17th at 11:59 p.m. So you've got some time to work on it, but it'll be here sooner than you think. Okay, so your next step is a proposal assignment, but that lecture is in another castle. So hop over to the next one, I promise it's much shorter, and start working on your proposal. Looking forward to hearing from everyone.